Dr. Valerie McCray. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm a clinical psychologist. I grew up, I think the most formative years were my childhood years I grew up in an all little black school. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, we were just running, ripping and running all day long. We were outside all day. You kind of knew. We all played all day because the threat was if you stayed inside, you had to do housework. So we stayed outside all day, just ran from water hose to get something to drink. And whoever's mom had hot dogs on the stove, that's what we gravitated to for the day. I think now you don't see kids playing outside all day. I think it's too hot, with global warming and everything, it's just too hot. But coming up, I think that the most pivotal change is I was actually part of the integration process. So that was a really interesting time because what they did was, we should have known something was coming because they cleaned up our school. We got new paint and new carpet and all this stuff. And then it was like this Paul Revere thing. The white kids are coming, the white kids are coming. So that was a big buzz. And so we went to their school half a day and they went to our school half a day. And that was the most interesting time because, and I got in trouble for this because I was just staring at the white kids, just staring because I didn't know to that day that their kids are just as messed up as our kids. And then it was a challenge of the top students to challenge their students, and they couldn't beat us any more than we could beat them, that we were equally matched. So I learned then that people are just people. And so that sort of was my foundation. But that school was very dynamic. We had plays about, I think I was Lena Horne at one point, and I sang this song, but it was actually by Leontine Price. The song that I had to sing was called Little Boy Blues. But we had this teacher named Miss Dubinion that just really was into Black pride. And so we had plays about these famous people, whether it was, I remember who played Sammy Davis Jr., I remember who played Martin Luther King, I remember who played Lena Horne, which was me, and Sidney Poitier, I remember the student that played Sidney Poitier, and we just had a great time. And we learned sort of self-pride. And I remember during that whole episode of The White Kids Are Coming, some of the black teachers were just a little bit more enthusiastic than my teacher liked. And so she brought us all together and said, what can they do that you can't do? And so she gave us that speech, and it was like, oh yeah, you're right. We can do just as much as they can do. So I think that was sort of my foundation coming up. And those were good times. Next door to us, though, at School 37, was the Juvenile Detention Center. And I'm going to show you guys that a little later. But the Juvenile Detention Center was one building that had a fence around it. And our school was right next door. And we were always threatened, if you act up, you're going to go next door to the Juvenile Detention Center, right? That didn't stop anything. Most of the fights that happened on the lawn of the Juvenile Detention Center. As soon as we got out the door, the fights were right there. It didn't stop any type of bad behavior at all. I don't know if it actually spurred the behavior, but we always had that threat. But it was a little school. It never had a playground. The playground was once a week when the teachers were made to move their cars off the parking lot, and that was our gym day. And that school, I don't ever recall it ever getting that big playground equipment. Now the facility next door became this monstrosity of, it just grew and just grew and just grew to the point there's several buildings. The parking lots have taken over like blocks. It's just a very busy place. And now, from what I understand, now our school is a community center. It's no longer school number 37. It's ironic that the school is closed and this big family court place that it's about judging and pulling kids apart and family just dysfunction. It's grown like crazy, and that's very disappointing.